Samantha from Samantha Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create dragonfly wing earrings with polymer clay. Now, I have got some Primo translucent clay here. This is the Primo white translucent, but regular Primo translucent will work. Any brand of translucent should work for this. Then I also have some metal leaf, specifically silver, and this one is optional, but I thought adding a little turquoise would be quite nice as well. And then I have two colours of alcohol ink, pool and sailboat blue. Just find the colours of ink that you think match something that would look like a dragonfly wing. And that is what I'm going to be working with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the translucent and I'm going to take the metal leaf and I am going to, just bear with me one moment, I'm going to take that, take it out the pamphlet, and I'm going to apply that metal leaf to one side like so. Now I'm not going to worry about the extra leaf that can get mixed in. I'm going to flip that over and I'm going to bring over that turquoise metal leaf. If you don't have this colour metal leaf, you can just add another silver, or you can just add one layer of leaf. That works fine. And just place that on. Then take your clay and just stack it in such a way that it's going to make it easier to chop everything up. Okay, and then you're going to take that and just start chopping it like so into small pieces, and then we're going to colour that with the alcohol ink. And then once you've got that all kind of chopped up and loosely separated, take that and place that into a little baggie, because I find this a much easier way of colouring it. It means that you have a lot less leaf floating around all over the place. It means you don't have as much alcohol ink all over the place as well, so it just makes things a lot tidier. And I'm just going to clean this up first as well. Okay, and I've just got that so that I can drop the ink into the bag, and I'm going to open up the inks. I'm going to start with the pool colour and just drip that in, and then the sailboat blue colour, and I don't have as much of that colour, so bear with me while I drop that in on the last little bits of this colour. Okay, and the metal leaf should colour it as well, so if you wanted different colours of metal leaf you could do that, so keep that in mind when you're working with that. And let me just move those to the side so I don't knock them. You're then going to take this, make sure to leave lots of air in the bag, and then you're going to take that and grab it so that you have a little baggie like so, and give it a shake. And that will disperse the ink around so that it colours the piece. And alcohol ink dries quite quickly, so you can just take that and leave the bag open to let it dry, but it will pretty much be done at this point. Let me just try to get all of these little pieces out. And there we go. And then at this point you can press that all together so that it forms a block of clay. And the veining is going to be very slight. Don't add any paint because I'm going to be silk screening a pattern over the top, and I don't want white veins of paint to compete with that. This is supposed to just give us quite a nice, almost stained glass marbled pattern. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue pressing it into a rectangle block, and then I'm actually going to let that sit for about 5 minutes, just to let the ink sink in a little more, and also for the clay to firm back up again, and for any ink that has not dried to dry. And then I'm going to cut it into slices and we can silk screen over the top of that. Okay, we're just about ready to go. I'm going to just take that and slice into it like so, just taking 1 millimeter thick slices roughly. And there you can see the veins are still quite prominent even without the presence of any paint, and it gives a almost stained glass effect, which is what I'm looking for. Also, something that you do need to bear in mind when working with inks of any kind is that they have a fairly large colour shift once baked. I find that blues will generally become a fair bit more green upon baking. So if you're looking for any kind of specific colour and aren't free-flowing with it, I would actually advise baking a test sample before committing to a full project, just because the colour shift can be a shock sometimes. Now, I have popped those together and I'm just giving them a quick burnish to get everything together, and then I'm going to actually roll it out until it's about 1/2 millimeter thick. Mainly because I want these to be quite translucent once baked. I want the light to shine through them so they look like translucent little dragonfly wings. So I'm just burnishing it all together first so the slices at least stick together. Then I'm going to take a roller, and I don't put it through the pasta machine mainly because my pasta machine will often leave residue on my clay and I don't want that to happen, so I tend to hand roll it. So I'll roll one way, flip, roll another way, and if at any point you find that you're getting any cracks, just press the clay back together a little bit and then give it a burnish again, and that will smooth out. And just continue that process until you get a piece of clay that is about 1/2 millimeter thick. And there we go, that's how it should look. And if you hold it up to a light source, you should be able to see that light source come through the clay. Alright, and now I'm going to bring over a butterfly wing silk screen I have. This will work well for a dragonfly pattern. And this is my layered silk screen set number 9. This is the first of 2 silk screens, or one of 2 silk screens. And they're both going to create a layered effect. So just peel that off its plastic backing, and I am going to be applying, I think I'm going to apply white paint first. And I'm just going to place that over the top of the clay, give it a good smooth down so that there's no air bubbles between the silk screen and the clay. And I'm going to be using white acrylic paint. This is the brand that I use and is the one that I recommend. It works very well for me. And I'm just going to take that and apply a nice strip of paint across the surface of the screen. And then I'm going to swipe the paint across, making sure that I get a nice even layer. And I like to go across both ways, that way I get a even layer. Okay, and then let me just pick that up and lift, and and there we go. That's how that looks. Absolutely fantastic. Now allow that to sit and dry. That needs to dry for about 15 to 20 minutes before I apply the next layer, just to make sure that the paint is dry. The paint should be completely matte, no shine on the paint at all before applying the next screen. And in the meantime, this needs to get washed out. Don't leave it sitting in the water because the paint can still clog your screen at that point. Just wash it out in a sink of cold water. You can use a little soft toothbrush or nail brush to brush the matte side of the silk screen. Don't brush the shiny side because that will damage the screen. Okay, and I actually was able to put this down in a sunny spot, and so I've left it to dry for about 5 minutes, and that has given me a nice matte finish on the piece. Now, another step that you can take to avoid paint sticking to the next layer of the silk screen is to give it a burnish, and this will stick the paint down further onto the clay. If you're really worried about the next layer of silk screen sticking to the paint, you can also dust a very light coat of cornstarch over the clay now, and that will help prevent the next layer of silk screen lifting up the paint. But generally I don't have a problem, especially with that brand of paint. Then you're just going to take this and you're going to lift it off the backing again. So, alright, and just take that and you're going to line that up so that the dots sit in the correct spot. And I did lift this up so they're not quite going to line up perfectly, but I want them just about in the right spot. Okay, and just give it a very quick burnish down, and I am going to grab, just make sure that it's stuck down at least a little. I'm going to grab some black acrylic paint, again the same brand. I'm going to apply a little bit of paint, grab the card again, and just cover the surface in that paint again, like so. Okay, and then you can take that and lift it up, like so. Okay, and I'm just going to quickly clean that. Okay, and I'm not completely happy with the black dots. I think they're a little much, so I'm going to take a piece of paper while that black paint is still a little wet. It's had about 30 seconds to dry, and I'm going to apply that paper and lift it up, and that's going to pick up a large amount of paint, and it's just going to dull back that paint while still keeping the general appearance. There we go. And there, I'm much happier with that because I felt like the black was a little too dark there. Alright, now I'm going to allow that to dry. Okay, then I'm going to take that and place it between two pieces of plain printing paper, and I'm just going to give it a burnish to again set that paint down into the clay, and to make sure that both sides of my slab have a nice smooth matte finish before cutting out my pieces. That way I eliminate most of the need to sand. Okay, and lift that up. And then the cutters that I am going to be using are these ones over here, and they're the Long Pebble 3 set, and I think that they look kind of like little dragonfly wings, and so that's what I'm going to be using. And I'm going to use the two largest ones and the two smallest ones. Okay, and then all I need to do is just take those and position them in a spot that I think looks nice, and then cut down like so. Go do the same with the other one, find a spot that I think works well, and then cut down, and I'm finding one that looks like a dragonfly wing. Okay, and you're going to cut all these pieces separately, including the little ones, and then it's going to get assembled together later on. They're not going to get assembled until they're baked, because I plan on placing resin on these, and so they need to be separate from one another. Also, your piece may stick in the cutter if you are cutting on a piece of paper, so just keep that in mind. Okay, but you should be able to just pop it right out of the cutter like so. Okay, and then I'm just going to lift that up. And the clay is a little sticky, so it might stick to itself like that. I'm just tapping around the edges because there's a little bit of paint around the edge that needs to get trimmed down. But there we go. And this you can cut out more earrings from, you could cut out more pendants, it's completely up to you what you want to do with it. I'm going to leave it for now because I'm only going to be making one pair today. Okay, so let me just move this out of the way. This is fantastic leftovers either way, mainly the little bits where you can't cut out any more pieces. You can just chop that up and roll it out and get quite a nice looking veneer. You could even possibly silk screen on it again. But for these I'm just going to place them down flat on the piece of paper, and I'm going to bake that for half an hour at Primo's recommended temperature, because these are quite thin so they don't need to go for a full hour. Half an hour being in a preheated oven. If it's not preheated, then it needs to be 40 minutes. And then once they're baked, they're probably going to need a little bit of a sand around the edge, and then we're going to resin them and finish them off. Okay, and here is how they look out of the oven, and you can see they have turned a significantly more green color. Let me actually bring over a piece of the original. Just bear with me one moment. Here we go. I have kept that so you can see the color difference, and this is what I was saying about when working with alcohol inks and translucent in general. You want to be aware that there is going to be some color change and to work that into the project. But they look really nice and have turned the shade of green that I wanted them to turn. Or they're more like a teal color. Now, if you need to give the edges a sand, then you can give them a sand at this point. However, they're pretty much good to go. Also, if you do decide to sand them and it's a wet sand, then you need to make sure that they're completely dry before adding resin to them, because water and resin creates bubbles. Because the moisture and the resin don't really go well together. Alright, and I'm just going to separate those out so that I can apply my resin. Just move those there. And this is the resin that I am using. Now I'm just going to open that up, and we're going to apply that to the piece. And you don't need a lot of resin, you just need enough to cover your piece. So work with less than you think you need. I will cover roughly half the surface of the piece, and then I will go to spread out the resin. Then I put this under a UV light for about 15 minutes. That's what works for my UV light. Whatever works with yours, put it under until the resin is dried. You can also put the resin under direct sunlight and it can dry that way as well. Sometimes that takes a little longer though. But just add your resin, spread it out to the edges, make sure that there's no air bubbles. You can scoop those out and then allow that to dry, and then can move to adding some holes and assembling. And here they are once they've cured, and you can see there how the resin really brings out the shine. And you could resin the other side as well, but I'm choosing to leave that matte. And the same goes for this. However, you're not going to be able to resin the sides. Those, if you really want to shine them up, you can add a little bit of gloss varnish. Just be careful not to get that on the actual resin side of the piece. But yeah. Right, now what we're going to do is we're going to drill them. And I'm just going to use a little handheld drill here. And I'm not going to drill in the center. I'm going to drill to the one side where I want the piece to hang. And it takes a little bit to get through the resin because it's a fair bit harder than the clay as far as material goes, but it should go through quite quickly. Okay, and you would repeat this step for the smaller piece as well. And there we go, I can feel that it's coming through the other side now. There we go. And just make sure that that's nice and clean. Yes, it is. Alright, and then I'm going to repeat with the other one. And there we go. Then I've brought over a length of chain, 3 jump rings, and my ear wire of choice. And what you're going to do is you're just going to take those jump rings, and let me just grab that with my one plier and then the other one, and you're just going to open that up, and you're going to pop that through the hole in your piece, and you're going to attach that to one length of the chain. Just bear with me while I get that. It can be a little fiddly. There we go. And you're going to repeat with the other one. You're just going to pop a jump ring through, and you're going to attach it to the opposite end of the chain. Okay, then you're just going to single out the 5th link up from the small piece, and you're going to attach a jump ring to that. And now bear with me because this can get quite fiddly. And I just skipped forward to when I'd already got that attached, because that was going to be quite fiddly. But you're then going to attach your ear wire, close up the jump ring, and then at this point just make sure that everything is situated in the correct spot. It should sit like that. And yes, that looks just about right. Okay, let me spin that around. And there, you can see how that looks. And I have already done the other one as well, so let me bring that little guy over. And there we go. That's how those two look. And they really are quite nice looking, if I do say myself. I quite like the glittery chopped translucent technique with the silk screen on top. I'm also quite happy that I did remove a little bit of the black paint because it would have been a bit much otherwise. But yeah, this I'm quite happy with. It looks especially nice in the sunlight that I unfortunately cannot show, but hopefully you can get the idea of how they look when I reflect it off the lights. They really are quite shiny and they will dance in the sun just like a pair of dragonfly wings. But yeah, that's just about it. If you enjoyed the tutorial, please do let me know in the comments below. If you have questions, leave them there as well, and I will get to them as soon as possible. And if you like the video, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing, as I do videos like this just about every single day. And if you'd like to support the channel, please do consider becoming a member. There is a join button just below this video, or there is a link to my Patreon account in the description below. I post exclusive videos there along with early access to my YouTube videos, and it's also a fantastic way to support the channel and is greatly appreciated. Another way to support the channel is to check out my Etsy store where I sell things such as the silk screen and cutters that I used in today's video, and it's a great way to support the channel while also getting a number of polymer clay related tools and supplies for your own collection. But yeah, that is just about it. I do hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.